Welcome back to another episode of the Within Reach podcast. And today we are going to be talking all things performance versus aesthetics. Now, strap in for this one because there is going to be some words said. So I have once again the incredible Anthony and Krystal with me. Hello, guys.
Hello.
How are we today?
Wonderful. Ready for today.
Fantabulous.
Fantabulous. That's an
Love
interesting
that
one.
word.
Nice. Now, I'm actually feeling really good about this one. I mean, don't get me wrong. I feel good about all the podcasts we do. But today's going to be a little bit more fun and uplifting. And also, as I said, there's going to be some words said. Now, we are talking today about all things aesthetics versus performance. And it's really important when on a fitness journey or when working towards goals to understand and differentiate the two. So, Krystal, if you want to give the listeners a little bit of an understanding of the difference between performance and aesthetics.
Training for performance would be you have a particular goal, whether that's a running event, whether that's a strength, whatever that may be that you're training for in particular. And then aesthetics being that you're training for a particular look in your body. So that might be hypertrophy. That'd be the main difference between the two.
Yeah, cool. And the thing is, like, there's no real right or wrong between performance versus aesthetics. I think we all have our own kind of way in which we like to train. But I think as well, like, there needs to be times in your life or phases in your life where you might be working towards one or the other. So with that being said, let's kick off by sharing what we're currently training for. Because I would actually love to know, what are you guys doing?
Well, Anthony, you got something up soon, don't you?
Yeah, so I'm actually training for my triathlon, which is a sprint triathlon.
I didn't know you were doing that.
Yeah, so that's
Really?
actually
No, I didn't know.
so that's actually a swim, bike ride, then run, which will be my first. So I'm actually really excited for it. Yeah.
When is it?
Later this month. Oh, well, actually, in case I don't know when this comes out, late February.
Yeah, because it could come out in September and people are waiting.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm speechless. Can you tell I'm
I
speechless?
can.
So
Yeah.
right. So that's coming up like really soon.
Yeah. So end of last year, around October, after I finished my full marathon, I sort of sat with myself and was like, wow, I've achieved all these great things. I'm like, what's next? What's the next challenge for me? Because I think for me and my mindset and my goals, they've always been the next step. So for when I finally achieved my full marathon, I was like, oh, I felt really fulfilled. And I was like, great. And I guess as humans, we're always desiring the more.
Yeah.
So cool. I'm going to start small again, which swimming is a very, choose my words wisely here, challenging task for me. So I chose to do a triathlon.
Yeah, cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. And so obviously that's performance based. What about you, Krystal?
So since I completed my first full marathon late November last year, again after that I was like, what's next? So I want to get faster. So I am going to do the Nui half marathon. Also, it's on my birthday. So I decided I'll just do the half, not the full. And I'd love to be able to get it in like between an hour and a half, hour 45. Because before my fastest half marathon had been like hour 58. So cutting off some time for me.
Beautiful.
Yeah, nice.
What about you, Steph?
Oh, look. 2024 has begun, and I'm still trying to work my shit out. No, in all seriousness, because I've always trained for performance. No, that's a lie. I've always trained for aesthetics, but like that's what I coach. That's what I love. I love the bodybuilding world. I love that sort of stuff. But I am noticing that my headspace is shifting, and I'm in a little bit of like a back and forth with myself at the moment on like wanting to continue to train for aesthetics and look a certain way, but also loving how training for performance makes me feel. So I feel like for myself right now, I don't actually have a goal, but I'm just enjoying sticking to my habits and my consistency. So, I mean, for you guys, you know, I've started running.
Yeah.
And honest to God, I had said for the whole of 2023 that I'm not a runner. And then I realized that's fucking bullshit. just to put it bluntly. So now I'm running. I think it's really important to be able to realize what you're holding yourself back from and then do the thing. So yeah, I'm excited by that, and I'm doing 2 runs a week on average at the moment, which for me is massive. And then I'm just living my best life with my strength training and just enjoying it. I don't know, maybe that technically is performance. I don't really have a goal right now.
Yeah, and that's so fun. Like, I know that for me, I'm sort of in the similar boat. Like, I do definitely still have, I guess, a goal of looking a certain way aesthetically, as well as achieving my performance goals as well. And I think that's where I've mentioned to you guys a few times, like the hybrid sort of status comes in for myself of like a great person that I look up to, Nick Bear, who's a athlete, and like he's the definition of hybrid to me. And that sort of aesthetic look wise is what I'm after, and the performance aspect of how I feel when going through life.
Yeah.
Another thing I'm training at the moment is I go to the movement collective. So I love like mobility and skill work when it comes like working on muscle ups and handstands and back bends. And so that's something I really enjoy doing. So yeah, that one thing I want to say for my training style is like, it's definitely for how I feel. So yeah, movement collective is very fun and playful. And then also with like running, really like pushing myself with my mindset. And then yeah, taking it away from the body image, because for me in the past, that was an issue. So that's why I like performance.
Yeah. So let's actually touch on that, because today I really want our listeners to understand the difference between aesthetics and performance, and then for us to kind of deep dive into it, because we all have very similar but very different opinions and thoughts on each of them, I'm sure. So you've kind of identified the difference between training for aesthetics versus training for performance. In terms of what that looks like and where your focus lies, what do you think the differences are? Crickets.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to take the rein for this. The differences. So again, as we already stated, aesthetics is training to look a particular way, and performance is your training for a particular event, a sport, triathlon, marathon, soccer, whatever that is. So it's taking it away from your body image. It's focusing on a performance.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like how you train for that is, again, coming back to really like what's going to work best for you to stay consistent in it. I think if people are desiring to look a certain way, being able to know how to build that up efficiently so you're not going to injure yourself or do that kind of thing. Like, for example, with running, if you're also reaching your capacity because you're running 5 times a week instead of 2, your injury is going to be higher.
More risk of injury.
Yeah, more risk of injury is going to be higher than if you actually were like, oh, okay, cool. This is the education, 2 times a week, different runs.
Another thing I like about performance training, especially for myself with like marathons, is that even my sessions in the gym is very like strategic and with intention of like each movement is with intention of what's going to improve my running. So yeah, that's something I like to focus on too.
Yeah, and I think I know that is a really great factor for people, because when I'm working with clients and as I said, like I have a passion for training for aesthetics. I love the bodybuilding space. I've done that, For me, it's like being able to reframe my mind or my client's mind or whoever it is on knowing that even if you do have aesthetic goals, you shouldn't be focusing wholly and solely on that, because it will get very old very, very quickly. So doing it for a passion of loving it, or doing it and still wanting to perform better at the same time. I think where there gets blurred lines though is if you're in a dieting phase or a phase where you're maybe not doing it for the right reasons, and it's just because you want to lose weight or you want to put on muscle, and it can, as I said, get very old and very stale really, really quickly. What do you guys think is the number one reason, or a couple of reasons, that people don't last in their journey if it's just focused on aesthetics?
as you said, it gets old very fast. And I guess people also forget their why. They just look at the shallow reason of I want to look a certain way, but not going deeper into like why and how is that going to make me feel.
Definitely, those two are great. I definitely also think of the only thing that I see more commonly with people that want the aesthetic is how fast or how not fast the body adapts to it. So, whether they're wanting to, lose 5 kilos instead of saying I want to do that in 2 weeks because that's an expectation, and doing it in 2 weeks will be very unhealthy. Then expanding it over a time where long term it's actually beneficial, you keep the weight off and you actually learn the education behind why you do it that way. If you're looking at it from like a growth standpoint, then working your upper body again 5 times a week, it's going to be injury prevention.
Yeah. So I love what you said there as well, because that is a really, really important point, is that people will be looking at it from a perspective of like getting to it as quickly as possible. And it can become really unsustainable, and you can set really poor expectations of what's actually possible for you.
We love
And
instant gratification in this world.
yeah, and there is, because like think of instant gratification, right? So instant gratification is all around us because, you know, you've got your phone and you can quickly scroll and you can get anything that you want. You can online shop, you can get Uber Eats, you can do all of those sorts of things. So it's becoming more and more common for people to get less and less patient. And that's actually where, in training for aesthetics, I see a really, really massive portion of people struggling because they're not patient, but also they're not focusing on the right things. So I think it's important to know that it's absolutely fine to have an aesthetic goal, because even I have them, and I'm sure most of us do to a degree, but being able to shift the focus away from that, and I guess know that it's going to come as a byproduct,
Yeah.
because that's where people shoot themselves in the foot. And I have noticed time and time again, people don't stick to the process. They don't know their why, which is what you said, or their why is so shallow that that's not going to get them through the tough days or the days that they really don't want to or aren't motivated or just feel like things are too hard or not moving along quick enough. You know, you guys experience this with your own clients?
Yeah.
Previously, yeah. So I just want to address what you said there, because I think it is really funny having this shallow why. And I, not that I see this a whole heap, but I do think understanding the why is really important. And if you're doing it for something outside of yourself, as to like, oh, well, that person will only like me if I look this way, or things
Oh,
like that,
that hurts my heart.
then unfortunately, it may not be for the right reasons, and there may be other limiting things that are actually stopping you from doing that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think as well, working as a coach, and I'm sure for you guys, like even when you're coaching clients through these goals, the way in which you coach them is very different too. Because if you have an aesthetic goal, if you're going to do a competition of some description, or you have like a time frame, you know, you want to drop 5 kilos before your wedding, which is a massive one. It is definitely a matter of like people trying to race to a finish line. But if you're training for aesthetics, also that can be drawn out too. Like people don't always have a specific time frame. When you're training for performance, it's very much a matter of, you know, like we have to be ready by this date and there is no wiggle room. And that can go either way, because I think for some people that can put a lot of pressure on them, but for others they thrive in that. So what I'd actually love to know, because Krystal's at the moment got multiple clients training for marathons and half marathons. It's your specialty, and you do really well with performance. So in your clients at the moment, or just people that you've spoken to or coached in the past, do you notice any sort of differences or any, I guess, shifts with people who have a goal with a deadline that has to be met versus not?
So it has come up in conversations before with like friends, mutual friends, that say to me like, oh, like that I inspire them, they love what I do, but they don't like setting goals to themselves, because I think it's because it's a fear of failure for them. They don't like, they don't want to disappoint themselves if they don't get there.
Sorry, I'm just looking at Anthony and he's got this big grin on his
Yeah.
face. We'll come back to you. What were you saying? I just can't. You can't miss it.
Yeah, have you spoken to people that have said that?
Just the topic of fear of failure, and like I've worked so deeply with so many clients that aren't actually aware that's what's holding them back. And then once they realize that, it's like a different person comes through for them. And I think that's really powerful. So I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, which like I've felt that too. Like even on my marathon day, because I had an incident where I couldn't do the Nui marathon, I did it by myself. I was so nervous, and then I couldn't figure out why I was nervous. I'm like, it's literally just me doing it. It's not an event. Just have some friends. Yeah, it was actually my partner said to me, he's like, I think you got a fear of failure. Like, because I've put it out on social media and then like, what if I can't actually do a full marathon?
Nice one, Jake. Good pickup.
Yeah. So yeah, shout out to Jake for that one. So now I'm able to, I've noticed it in other people too. So yeah, I've noticed in people that don't like to set goals for themselves. And I think that for those people that don't like to do that, I feel like their goal is too vague and they're like, oh yeah, I want to be fitter. What does that look like? And then breaking it down. And then as for my clients that, have now set this date for them, they're so driven and, they're just very motivated, to get to their goal because they got that date booked in.
I love what you just said there. Let's speak about, were you going to do the same
Yeah, I was
specificity?
exactly going to say it.
Go for it because that is massive.
Yeah. One of the biggest things I see throughout life, because I don't think it has specifically just to do with health and fitness. I think it has to do with like anything that you actually want to achieve, whether it's like move out, buy something, I don't know, invest into yourself, whatever it actually is like this being so specific of like the date, getting all the details, like as much as you can. Once you have all of that information, it's going to come a lot more quicker. And I was going to also speak about like how it goes into goal setting so much and like how it actually helps drive people, because every time that when you set a goal and you're working towards it, each time you tick something off, it actually sends dopamine and serotonin through our central nervous system, which is the happy hormone. And that makes us want to do more of it. So that in turn makes us want to work towards that goal even more.
Yeah. So we've kind of gone through all of the performance versus aesthetics, what it is, and it's very apparent that training for performance is going to be a lot more light and airy for you, and chances of following through with it are probably a whole lot higher too. In terms of moving into like aesthetic training, because I know it's a massive thing at the moment, and particularly on like social media as well, you see all of the coaches that are, doing bodybuilding shows and posting on their socials about it. And then there's a lot of like people that you can compare yourself to that are also doing that sort of thing. Do you think that training for aesthetics is more of a trend than anything else?
I don't know if I'd say it was a trend exactly, because I think it's been around for a very, very long time. Like, have you guys seen the Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary?
Yeah, so let me rephrase what I'm saying here, right? So not necessarily a trend in the sense of everyone's going to go do a bodybuilding show. Go for gold. I tried it twice and I didn't follow through. Anyway, whole nother podcast. When it comes to like a trend, I'm talking like with your peers, or a trend in, oh, everybody else is doing it, so I should too, without actually knowing what it is that you want. You're kind of going, oh, well, I think I'm going to be accepted more, so I'll do it. Or I think that people are going to like me more, so I'll do it. Like a trend in the sense of that's what everyone's doing, so I guess I'll just do the same. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, that makes more sense. And for me personally, I haven't been around too many people that have, besides like a couple friends or like mutuals that I know of. And I don't view those competitions as healthy.
That is so interesting. Oh, okay. I really want to discuss this because this is where we're going. Talk to me. Tell me.
So
I'm so
I
excited.
don't see the point okay, let me start by saying I have so much respect for everybody that does them. I think it's a massive sign of self-control and discipline and determination to be up on that stage. But to like dehydrate yourself and to be on like such low calories, and I know for a lot of women that causes eating disorders and like a really unhealthy relationship with themselves, which I have witnessed in some of my friends. So that is why I don't like them.
No, I love it. And you know that this space is for us to have these types of conversations. Anthony, what's your opinion before I kind of like speak on mine? What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think for the people that don't educate themselves on the possibilities of what may happen if they train effectively for it, diet for it, do all of those things that they not essentially need to do, but to be in the peak state of, I guess, possibly winning or the chance of winning.
Mm.
Like there is some pretty harsh, um, what I say, pretty harsh like expectations from the judges or like from the peers that are in that circle. So I think as long as you are educated before going in and aware of the possibilities, then I think go for it. And I mean, one day I might even do it, but I think
Yeah.
it's all about just educating yourself as much as possible to really know what the outcome is.
See, I love what both of you said there. And I know like because both of you have got your opinions based on your experiences, right? And nobody, not a single person is right or wrong. So I just want everyone to remember that at the end of the day, your opinion is your opinion. And with this, I agree with everything that you guys said, but I can actually speak from experience on this. So here's a little bit of a story for you. So some of you may know that I did actually really engage myself in training for aesthetics for a very long time. And when I first entered the industry as a coach, I was somebody who was very much, I need to look a certain way, I need to be a certain way in order to A, be a good coach, and be accepted by the people around me. Now, I entered my first bodybuilding show in the WBFF before it was FMG. And I got about 4 weeks out from the show, and the second wave of COVID hit. So I never got to compete. At the time, I was mortified, but it was actually a real blessing in disguise because what had happened is I had developed a disordered eating pattern. I also was very, very hard on myself, and I had a very poor relationship with self. So this was back in 2021. That's when the second wave of COVID hit, I
Yep.
believe. And and we went into lockdown for a few months. Anyway, so for me, at that time, training for aesthetics was very challenging because I was not doing it for the right reasons. And I think a lot of our listeners can probably relate to this in the sense that regardless of if you're going to the extreme of bodybuilding or training for a marathon or just, the everyday Joe, there is a point where if you're not doing things for the right reasons, you're going to end up with these harsh realities that you may not think is going to happen to you. And I then decided in 2022 to do my second prep to go again because I said to myself, no, I'm going to prove myself wrong. I'm fine. Well, guess what happened? The exact same thing because once again, I wasn't doing it for the right reasons. And what I really feel about the bodybuilding world and just generally people who are training for aesthetics and are kind of either in that world or like not in that world but want to be in that world is number one, if you're not in the position to be able to do it for the right reasons, and unfortunately a lot of people don't even identify that that's happening, it can be really severe outcomes, as you've said. And then on top of that, I think, again, everybody's going to have an opinion on this, but it is very, very apparent that some things can go wrong. Some things can go really, really wrong. And there is a lot of coaches that can coach you through it well, and there's a lot of coaches that cannot coach you through it well. So we do see in the industry time and time again, people suffering. And I do feel that this has put a bit of a negative blow on training for aesthetics as a whole. However, training for aesthetics is not a bad thing. It's just being able to do it for the right reasons and also have that support and that backbone behind you that you can do it well.
Mm.
Because in my personal experience, in training for aesthetics, I've suffered big time. And I've heard so many stories of people who have too.
Because I have trained like purely for aesthetics in the past, and I found it did just like consume me. So that's why I kept coming back to my marathons, because yeah, it took it away from that. And then because I was training and so fit, the body came anyway.
Yeah, byproduct, right? Byproduct. And I love now reframing my clients' goals in their minds, because once again, I will preface, I love training for aesthetics. I love the idea of having somebody come to me with a 15-kilo fat loss goal and being able to achieve it. But being able to work with them on an individual basis to reframe their why along the journey. And I actually think as well, great point, Steph. Love it. Okay, so what I've noticed about people who work with a coach versus people who don't work with a coach, right?
I know exactly where you're headed.
Yep. The ones that work with a coach seem to get the best results. Why is that? Of course, because the coach knows what the fuck they're doing. Not saying that people not with a coach don't, but for a lot of people, they don't. That's what it is. But when you're working with a coach, you've got someone in your corner who can reframe your mind and your thinking along the way. So my clients are successful in their goals because of the fact that we're constantly reframing their why. We're constantly understanding why they're doing what they're doing and making sure that they've got the exact like goal in mind in a healthy way. And I do ask every client that comes to me, you know, why do you want this goal? And being able to attach that why to it the whole time, people are more successful. They're going to follow through.
And another thing that we've also addressed with our clients is like, it's also okay for your goals to change.
Absolutely.
Like, I think there's been like a few clients where they've then like they've hit their weight loss goal or they've achieved what they wanted to achieve, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, let's reassess what's your new goal.
Yeah.
And then be able to get them to work towards something that they then next want to achieve.
Another thing I love is because with our check-ins with like progress photos and measurements is that people that are like not working with a coach, they may not track their progress and just feel like they're never getting anywhere. And something I love doing is showing the clients like how far they've come from when they started, and they're like, oh wow, like I didn't realize.
Because when you're yourself in your own body,
you see it every day.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you see. You only see you. So it's very much like you're not going to notice the inches or centimeters coming off. You're not going to notice the changes in how you look. All people focus on is the scale weight. And the scale weight is massive, and the scale weight can be very, very good and very, very bad at the same time. And we kind of have gone down a line today of, you know, the extremes on either side. And I do actually want to speak about scale weight. Now, we talk about scale weight with our clients all the time, and we're always reminding and re-reminding that scale weight is definitely something that is not the be-all and end-all. And something I say to my clients all the time, and I want everybody to remember this, scale weight is your total body weight, not your fat mass weight. It is very different. Your scale weight will measure your hair, your skin, your muscle mass, your water retention, your bones, your body fat, all of it, everything. Even your clothes, if you're wearing clothes, right? Now, where that can go wrong is because people are always looking at seeing that scale weight go down, but scale weight fluctuates, okay? If you were to jump on the scales first thing in the morning and then you were to have a glass of water and jump straight back on, I guarantee you it will be different. So many people go so wrong with focusing on scale weight.
It is something that we've addressed very clearly with our clients.
And we don't, I don't know about you guys, I'm sure you do, but I don't stop. Every single check-in, particularly for those clients that I know do have past beliefs around scale weight, I'm constantly reminding them, because I'm reminding them with the intention that eventually they'll just know.
For sure. And I noticed with some clients, they'll jump on the scales like multiple times a day, and they ask me, oh, like what scale weight should I enter? And I was like, first thing in the morning on an empty stomach after you've been to the bathroom. Because as you said, Steph, like once you drink water, once you eat, like your scale weight is going to be different depending on, when you last ate, how much sodium retention you have for a woman, like where you're at in your cycle, it all counts.
Cycle's a massive one. And actually, something else on this, I was talking to a client yesterday who is currently in a build with me, and she's been in a build for, I'm going to say, close to the 12-month mark. Kudos to her, because most women, unfortunately, don't last that long before they freak out and go back into a diet. It's diet culture. It's also societal norms. Unfortunately, I'm sure you guys, again, can relate to this. Maybe not you, Ant. I don't know what males were like, but for us women growing up, you know, the thigh gap was a trend. And, you know, the being as skinny as you possibly can was a trend. Like, that was all, like, if you had that, you were it. So it's not surprising that in this day and age, we've got so many young women. Well, actually, do you know what? I notice it in generations as well. So, like, the older group of women, and again, I'm only speaking on women because I just don't know the male demographic. A lot of older women, they believe that they need to cut out carbs, cut out sugar, and that all of those, like, things that we now know are not true are true. So that's the older demographic. I notice that they're all like that. And then we've got that younger demographic, which are around our age, so people in their teens all the way up to maybe their 30s. And they all believe that, you know, not only is scale weight a thing, but they also believe that if you're not small or if you're not dieting, that, you know, you're not in a good place. It's very bizarre. And I think it does come down to education. But anyway, this client, incredible, 12-month build. We've done one mini cut just to allow her to feel a bit better before Christmas. But she messaged me yesterday and she said she was feeling a little bit unsure and a little bit nervous about increasing calories again, because she notices that her midsection feels fuller and gets larger. And I noticed that, again, for women, this is a massive, massive topic, because people feel full, or they notice that their stomach after they eat something expands, which it's meant to do, and they freak out about it. Do you notice that?
Yep.
Yeah. And then the other thing on that as well is so for a woman, our ovaries and around that bottom part of our stomach, it's not meant to be flat. It's not meant to be. That's where we're supposed to carry children. It's where we get our period. It's where we're supposed to have that extra little, like, pouchy room. And it's normal, but people forget that.
Yeah, I feel like you see a lot of people on Instagram with abs, and again, coming back to like the bodybuilding, all the women on there have abs, and I would like to know how many of them have their period because, yeah, as a healthy woman, your body fat should be around 20-24%. So if you have abs, surely that'd be down at like 8 to 14% probably. So yeah, women out there, it's okay to have a little tummy.
Yeah. And also, we're not shitting on the bodybuilding world. We're not.
No.
Because again, everybody has their own opinion, and I still love the bodybuilding world. And as Krystal said, like, we both, and I'm sure Anthony's the same, like, we really, really love how much work these men and women put into their craft. It's fucking incredible. It's amazing. But it does get misconstrued. The message does get misconstrued for a lot of people. Whose fault that is? Probably no one's. It's just the way that it's gone. But these reminders are things that we all need to remember, because the general population of people, they don't need to go to that extreme. And when it comes back to scale weight, it can be a very, very, I'm going to say, yes, scary task for people, because they put a number, they make a number mean something, when actually it's just a measure of data, right? So with that, we do get our clients to do scale weight, but we don't always. Have you guys got clients, or have you had clients in the past where you've been able to rearrange how they track their data just to make sure it suits them better?
Yeah, a fair few of mine didn't even own scales.
Not a bad thing.
Yeah, because they already identified that wasn't healthy for them. So we go off like measurements and photos as well.
Yep, exact same. Yeah. So I do find it a little bit more in the female space for sure. And I would have to say, from a male perspective, being educated on that as a coach is so valuable, because if you don't understand the female cycle or the female body, then you could be setting expectations that don't align with them.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So how do we, for people at home listening and they're like, I don't have a coach and I do want to track my progress, but I'm feeling a little bit triggered by the scale weight, or I'm feeling a little bit unsure with like tracking my data. What are some tips that they can start with just to make the process of their goals, if they are training for aesthetics, feel better?
Say if you're like to track your measurements, only do it like once a week, once a fortnight. Don't do it every day because then you can get quite consumed by it. And as you said, like we fluctuate throughout the week. So yeah, just doing it once a week. And as a woman, if you do it fairly regularly, you're going to see like different times of the month, you'll be at different points.
Mm. You got nothing?
No comment.
Moving on.
Forgot the question.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay. Well, I think that we've really covered a lot here in terms of training for aesthetics versus a performance, what we notice in people generally speaking around, I guess, industry trends when it comes to their goals. And then also we have kind of touched on the bodybuilding world a little bit. And, you know, I think as well, all sports and all goals have, there's an up and a down to it, to all of them, right? It's knowing that you're going to have things that you need to do that you're not necessarily going to like doing, and you're going to have things that you don't need to do that you're going to be happy or not happy about doing. You know, for example, when it comes to like training for aesthetics, well, yeah, you might have to track your data just to see how you're going, or you might have to be a little bit more on top of your training to make sure that you've got the right program for you. When you're training for performance as well, you know, there's an end date. There's a date that you have to be ready by. And I'm sure for a lot of people that does come with pressure too. What would you say is the number one reason that people might self-sabotage their goals when it comes to either training for performance or aesthetics?
Not being clear on their why, I think, because if it is shallow and then they don't follow through, so like, yeah, self-sabotaging because they, yeah, either like forgotten about their why or they were just why wasn't strong enough.
I'd, I'd say very similar. I would also say maybe that I guess the fear of failure or the fear of success actually comes in as well. So as we touched on before, like fear of failure is a whole thing. And on the other side of that, people can actually be scared of their own success as well. So like if I succeed, what do I become? Like what happens?
Yeah.
So like a lot of people have it when they're entrepreneurs of like their business actually becoming really successful. And then it's like, oh my God, what if I become successful? And so same thing with fitness. It's like, what if I actually do that? Like what do I do sort of thing? So they actually put almost like a limit on how much they can achieve, because if they achieve any more, then it's like unknown, unfamiliar, uncomfortable. So they just choose to stay in that cycle.
Yeah. And that actually, I resonated with that a lot, because going back to what I was saying before about how I've, you know, tried to do 2 bodybuilding shows and pulled out of both of them because it was unaligned and I was doing it for the wrong reasons. There was a part of me that actually did have fear of success. And it's quite funny because I didn't know that was a thing. And a few months ago, you and I, Ant, were having a conversation in the office, and you know, you were telling me about fear of success, and I was like, oh, that's strange. Like, I don't understand that concept. Everyone wants to be successful, right?
This is actually the first time I'm hearing of it, to
Really?
be honest.
Yeah. Well, I actually can resonate with that a lot, because when it came down to, you know, me doing these shows, I was actually I had a fear of failure, but I also had a fear of success, because I thought, holy shit, if I do this well, I have to then keep it up. So not only was it a fear of like what I would become, but it was a fear of then having to maintain that level of sacrifice or that level of focus or that title for a long period of time and have to keep showing up as that person. And I think as well, people can fall back into old patterns, habits, or like not do the thing because they're like, but then I have to always continue to do it. And that seems like effort. And I don't know if you've ever spoken to anyone about this, Ant, but I feel for myself, that's exactly what it was. It was like, then I have to maintain a standard. So
yeah, definitely. I've talked to many people about it. And it's almost funny because I don't speak to, well, I guess when I speak to people about it, it's always seems to be at a time where they're facing something and they go, that's what I'm having. And it's just so interesting that it comes up because, like, it isn't a common thing I talk about, but with the right people, it just seems to come to mind. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And like, there's also this aspect of it. And they're like, ah,
Yeah, it's like an aha moment.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, what we've kind of established is training for performance always seems to come out on top because it allows you to focus on the right things.
Before we move on from that, I do want to touch on, I have seen people decide to do like half marathon for the wrong reasons. They'll do it to lose weight. And I want to say that is a really bad idea.
Interesting segue. I'm actually really interested in this. So, because again, from my experience, I don't know that well because that's not what I've ever done. So, going back to, you only know what you know, you've seen that happen before.
Yeah. So I know even for myself that, yeah, I wanted to do, oh gosh, it was probably my second half marathon or something, like in goal to lose weight. But because you're doing like so much exercise and that's already a lot of stress on the body. And if you're then eating in a deficit, eating lower, like less than what you're burning, you're prone to injuries. You're not going to be recovering as well. You're not going to be feeling very well. And then for the first time around last year, I was training for my full. I wasn't tracking my calories properly. Like I thought I was eating enough. And then I'd lost my period for a cycle. So as a woman, that's a very good way to find out if you're feeling yourself correctly or not, if you lose your cycle or not. And then I did like a hormone nutrition course and then, yeah, learning about like how much the body needs. And that taught me a lot about like the stress response on the body. So yeah, if someone wants to do like a half marathon in order to lose weight, I'd only be in a deficit for like maybe like if it's like 12 weeks away, I'd be in deficit maybe like 4 weeks. But then for that 8 weeks coming up, you want to be like at your maintenance to make sure that you're fueling yourself correctly, recovering, just to be able to go again.
Yeah. You know what I love? I love when we have conversations where not only do I learn, but I actually get different perspectives on things. Because again, coming from like more of that aesthetics background, I didn't even know that people did performance training for the wrong reason. So really, aesthetics and performance is no right or wrong. It's the reason behind why you're doing it. That's huge. And that's actually something that I want everyone to listen to again is it's what the reason is that you're doing it for. I think I assumed, and we shouldn't always assume things, but I think I assumed that anybody doing performance training is doing performance training, they're doing it for performance. But what you're saying is some people are doing performance training, but it's still not for the right reasons.
Yeah, yep. I have had people come to me, they're like, yeah, I want to do this and lose a couple kilos. And I was like, that's not the best way to go about it. So I would say like do a mini cut and then do your training if that's something that you want to do. But I wouldn't say be in a deficit whilst you're training for an endurance event because yeah, that's too much stress on the body.
Definitely. And that goes so much into nutrition, like, and a big focus of actually reaching any goal is nutrition as well. So how could we almost let people know, let the listeners know how to, weigh up whether they're doing the right thing right now?
It's a really good question. I love that somebody asked me a question. Yes. So good. No, look, I think it does come back down to, as we kind of discussed, the why behind it, but knowing that if you are somebody who is looking at ticking off a goal, where did that goal kind of come from and what's your belief system around that goal? People do performance training for many reasons. They would do it because they want to prove something to themselves, prove something to others. The list goes on. And then same thing for aesthetics. And as I said, like I'm an open book. I'll admit that I am somebody who was doing it for the wrong reasons, but being able to identify if you're doing something for the right reasons, it comes back to you. If it's for any other reason other than for you, I would be second guessing that because we only have one life, and is it really worth doing it for someone else? Like I don't really, and see, as I've gotten older, that's what I've realized. I've realized that a lot is like any goal that I have, any way that I look, anything that I think and feel, it all comes back to me. And just being able to check in with yourself and go, is this really what I want, or is it what I think other people are going to like me for?
Mm.
Is that where you were going to go with that?
Yeah, that's sort of
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Well, I think that this was a pretty informative episode, very much, you know, around, I guess, the difference between the two and our views and opinions on things. But I feel as well, just adding in some little bits of information and insight for people. What we want to do in this podcast is we want to get you thinking. We want you to become a little bit more self-aware, and we want you to really be able to expand your mind in the conversations that we're having. And this isn't, you know, an opportunity, I guess, for you guys to start to reevaluate your goals and to understand that there's no right or wrong with where you're at. It's about where you go next. And it's also about knowing if you are in the position to do the thing you actually want to do. Performance training, aesthetics training, whatever it is you're doing, as long as you're doing it for yourself, I think that's always the right reason.
100%. And it was so good to see, well, so good for the listener to hear the different perspectives as well through experience, through each of our experiences as well. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this chat.
Yeah. Anything else you guys want to add?
Nah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for listening once again. And we really love the support. And we're so thankful for you guys to be listening into this podcast. So please make sure you give us a like, subscribe on our YouTube channel, message us and let us know what you think. If there's any specific topics that you want to touch on, want us to talk about, anything that you do or don't agree with, like we love it all. We want this to be expansive, transformative, and to be able to really give people insight into what's actually going on in the health, fitness, and mindset world. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you again next time.
Bye.